This week's video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build your perfect website. If there's one thing I've learned over the years in landscape photography, it's that very few things are actually agreed on. In fact, the longer you spend in this space, the more you actually realise that almost every topic has two completely opposite opinions. And I think that is probably what makes it so interesting, but also a little bit confusing, especially when you're first starting out, because you'll hear one person say something is absolutely essential, and then someone else will tell you the complete opposite with just as much confidence. So in this video, I thought it would be fun to go through a few of the most controversial topics in landscape photography based on the things that I've kind of heard people debate over the years. Some of these I agree with, some of them I don't, and a few of them I'm honestly kind of sitting on the fence somewhere in the middle. So let's get into this, and please do let me know your opinions down in the comments section. It's always great to connect with you down there. Wow, this place is absolutely stunning. There was meant to be fog forecast for this morning, hence why I'm in the woodland. But yeah, that hasn't materialised. So I'm on a bit of a scouting exercise to see if I can find something here. This is a location I've not visited before. So hopefully something will come along, or I might find something for a future visit. But this place is absolutely beautiful. So this is probably one of the biggest debates in landscape photography, I think. Now, for a long time, there's been that idea that if you're serious about landscapes, you need a tripod. End of discussion. It's almost seen as part of the proper workflow. Slow things down, be deliberate, get everything perfectly sharp. And I do understand that thinking, especially for things like long exposures or really controlled compositions where you're bracketing your shots. A tripod definitely has its place, but at the same time, I've also found myself going handheld more and more over the years, especially with modern cameras that have IBIS. The quality is so good now that in many situations, it just works absolutely fine. And there's something quite freeing about it as well. You know, you can move faster, you can react to light more naturally, and you're not constantly setting up and breaking down your gear all of the time, which obviously saves you time. So I don't think it's a case of one being right and one being wrong. It's more about what kind of experience you want when you're out shooting. I've actually been thinking a lot about completely ditching my tripod for say 6 months or so, just to see how I get on over a prolonged period of time. Because while I do enjoy a thoughtful, slow workflow that a tripod brings, I absolutely detest carrying one. Next, we have heavy editing versus the natural look, and this is one that comes up quite a lot, especially in my comments section of my videos. So some photographers believe that landscape images should stay as close to reality as possible, so very minimal editing, subtle adjustments, and keeping things fairly true to what was actually there. And then on the other side of things, you've got people who are much more open with their editing style, shaping the final image, pushing colours, blending exposures, sometimes even replacing skies. And I honestly think that both approaches are absolutely fine. The real question for me is more about intention. Are you trying to document what you saw, or are you trying to create a version of how it felt? Because I think those two things are very, very different. And I think most photographers naturally sit somewhere in between those 2 points. For me personally, I shoot in RAW and then enhance my images to a point of trying to get the image as close to what I saw when I was actually there. Sometimes this involves quite a lot of editing, sometimes hardly any at all. It really depends on the light at the time of capture. But my end goal is to make the photo similar to what I saw when I was actually taking it. For me personally, I think replacing a sky with one that was shot on another day just doesn't quite feel right to me. But that's not to say that it's wrong, it's just my preference. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. So before we get on to the next really controversial topic, I'd just like to thank the sponsor of this week's video, which is Squarespace. When it comes to sharing your photography or creative work, there's something really nice about having your own website. You have full control over how it looks, how it feels, and how your work is presented. I personally use Squarespace to help me create clean, simple photo galleries, sell my digital products, and also offer things like workshops and photography tours. I've also built a membership site called the Photographer's Clubhouse, which has become a really great space for sharing my editing tutorials and building a community of like-minded photographers. What I like about Squarespace is that it keeps everything really straightforward. You can start with one of their well-designed templates, or if you want to go a bit more custom, they also have built-in AI tools that help you shape things quickly without feeling complicated or overwhelming. So if you'd like to set up your very own website, head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch a site, go to squarespace.com/IanWorth to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. You can also use my offer code as well. Yeah, big thanks to Squarespace for continuing to support this channel. It really does help out. Anyway, let's go on to the next point. So primes versus zooms. This is a gear debate that just never seems to go away. Prime lenses are often praised, aren't they, for being sharper, simpler, and more intentional. You know, you've got only one focal length, so you have to move your feet, think more carefully, and really commit to a composition. And then zoom lenses give you flexibility. So when you're out in the field and the light is quickly changing, or you can't physically move closer or further away, that flexibility can be incredibly useful. I think this one really comes down to how you like to work. If you enjoy slowing down and really thinking through a composition, primes can actually be really helpful. But if you prefer adapting quickly to conditions, I think zooms are hard to beat. Personally, I use both. My wide angle is a prime, and I can honestly see the argument for each side. I do feel for landscapes though, a zoom can be a little bit more helpful than a prime lens, because often simply you just can't move. You know, you might be stuck on a trail like I am today here in this woodland. So yeah, that's the reason why I choose zooms for the majority of my work. So this one is quite interesting, and it's definitely something people feel quite strongly about. And this kind of gets on my nerves a little bit, if I'm honest. You should avoid iconic or heavily photographed locations altogether. The idea being that it's too easy to copy what's already been done, and it can hold back your creativity. And I do understand that perspective. You know, there's something powerful about finding your own compositions, which is why I'm probably looking around this woodland today. I'm looking for something less obvious, and it's obviously more rewarding to do that. But on the other hand, I don't think famous locations should be avoided completely either. Just because a place has been, you know, photographed a lot, it doesn't mean you'll see the thing in the same way everybody else does. You know, light, weather, timing, all of that changes absolutely everything, doesn't it? And sometimes it's actually a really good exercise to challenge yourself to create something different in a place that's been shot lots of times. Personally, I really enjoy visiting well photographed spots. Firstly, because they are just amazing places to see, but also a lot of these locations offer multiple options as well for good photography. So yeah, don't be put off by what others say, just go and enjoy it for yourself. Yeah, why not? So this is another rule, if you want, that gets repeated a lot in landscape photography. Avoid midday light, wait for the golden hour, only shoot sunrise and sunset. And yes, those times can be absolutely amazing, can't they? The light is often softer, warmer and more directional, which works really well for landscapes. But I do think the idea that you should completely avoid the middle of the day, I think it's a bit limiting. Because harsh light, overcast conditions or even strong midday contrasts can actually work really well if you approach it differently. It might not give you those classic soft tones, but it can create more graphic, high contrast images that feel quite different and sometimes more powerful in their own way. So I think it's less about avoiding certain times and more about understanding what each type of light can give you. And if you're interested in learning more about light, I have a free ebook called Light in the Landscape, which you can download instantly. The link for that is down in the video description. It's well worth taking a look. Now, probably one of the longest running debates in photography is full frame versus APS-C versus micro four thirds. And for a long time, I think full frame was seen as the serious option, you know, better quality, better dynamic range, better low light performance. And while there are differences, I think those gaps have closed a lot in recent times. APS-C and Micro Four Thirds systems are incredibly capable now, especially for landscape photography, where you're often shooting at base ISO and in good light most of the time. And in real world use, things like composition, light and timing will almost always matter more than the size of your sensor that you're using. So while there are technical differences, I think the idea that one system is correct or better just doesn't really hold up anymore in the way that it used to. A larger sensor will offer more dynamic range and less noise in the shadows, but will cost you more weight in your pack and probably more money out of your pocket as well. Personally, I use APS-C and Micro Four Thirds, and I have done for some time, and I've been really happy with both of those systems for landscape photography. Back in the day though, when I used to shoot a lot of documentary photography for clients, I often found myself working in fairly dimly lit environments, and the improved ISO performance that a full frame camera gave me was worth every penny. But for outdoor shooting, that gap becomes a lot narrower in my opinion. So it really does come down to what you intend to use the camera for, I think. And I think that's kind of the point of all this, isn't it really? You know, landscape photography is full of opinions, and a lot of them are confidently presented as rules. But the more time you spend doing it, the more you realise that most of those rules really are just preferences. What works for one person won't always work for someone else. And that's kind of what makes it interesting, I guess. So I'd be curious to know where you stand on these topics or these points that I've spoken about today. Do you agree with any of them, or do you see it completely differently? Let me know in the comments. As always, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you next week, and maybe we'll find some photos to shoot as well.